And we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. Today, I'm really excited about today's show. Today, we have Steve Moby Leitch, a seasoned speaker, mentor, ultra-marathon swimmer with a story that will fuel your fire for never giving up, taking chances in life and business, and serving others in a very, very big way. And so I'm very excited. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss this episode, and we'll see you on the inside. And welcome. Oh man, I tell you what, over here on the East Coast, the Southeast specifically, but we're having some major storms, right? And even during our intro, everything kind of flashed a little bit in my office. So we're gonna pray that everything goes well here. But more than anything, I think that today it's just going to be a powerful episode. I'm so glad that we have my friend and colleague, Steve. Steve, I've been calling you Steve the whole time, and I know, do a lot of people call you Moby, just like straight out Moby?
No, actually, only my granddaughter. She's
okay.
calls me Moby. My wife in front of my granddaughter calls me Moby, and her parents call me Moby. But no, Moby is reserved for the grandchildren.
Okay. All right. Well, then we're going to back off of that. I see it on a lot of your stuff, and it made me think about it as I was introducing you as well. So, but anyway, thank you so much for coming on. And I think, the thing that's real powerful about today's episode, we talk about the power of resilience, purpose, and just vision. And you and I, we've had an opportunity to sit down face to face and just really kind of peel back layers and talk at a level where, we were just real vulnerable and just completely transparent with the things that have happened in our lives. So I hope that those viewing live from multiple channels and those that watch this later in recording, that they feel that same impact and power that I had when I was with you as well. Because here's the thing, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are just working really hard for in your 9-to-5, or you're a stay-at-home, it doesn't matter at what level or what your day-to-day kind of purpose is. We know that we all face major challenges in life, and one of the things, and we'll be talking about that more, but I know you mentioned it in your book and a few other things. You talk a lot about losing your sense of self, and so we'll be peeling back a little bit of layer there, because I think that is something that every single person can identify with at some point, right, in their journey. But thank you so much. And let's just open up. I have all this stuff here. I could read a ton of things about you, but let's just allow our viewers just to hear a little bit more about your journey. We're going to be talking about some of the mission work that you're doing, your book, and just everything that you've got going on. But I think your story is very fascinating. So please, without further ado, Steve, share with us a little bit about who you are and why you are, in this current place, this purpose in life.
Yeah, Robert Starr, thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here, Moby. 18 months ago, became a grandfather, and that was really, really cool. So she's now actually saying Moby, which is great. It's kind of like Moby, and now it's Moby. So I love that. Who am I? What am I? Gosh, my life is like could probably go over on like multiple different genres of movie. I feel like there's a past life, present life, and gosh, I have no idea what the future holds. But if it's as exciting as everything else has been, I'm in for a ride. Yeah, I grew up in Scotland, so I can get the Scottish brogue if you need it. You know, and,
Okay.
we can even recite some Robbie Burns poems. But grew up in Scotland. My dad was an evangelist and did stuff with Moody Bible Institute, where he had gone to college in 1966. Him and my mom flew across in a twin prop plane to go. So kind of adventurers, right? Going from Scotland to Chicago in 1966. So definitely, Dad always had this, like, I'd get to the top of one hill and wondered what was over the next hill kind of mentality. And that definitely passed down to me. My mom had a very resilient spirit about her. I mean, she started running when she was, I think, 61 years old, and did her last marathon at 75.
Wow.
You know, so like, and still walks, I mean, 50, 60, 70, 80 miles a week, you know, at 81 years old. So you put together adventure with resilient person, and you get me. I was a swimmer, grew up coming to America every summer and Christmas since I was born. So when I was in America, I felt like the Scottish kid. When I was in Scotland, they'd make fun of me for being the Yank. I just never really felt like I fit in, and it was really probably more my own insecurities. I had a big wall up around me, and I was constantly trying to connect with people, and kind of touched on that. I felt like every time I was trying to connect with, I was just trying to connect with people, and lost the sense of who I was and what God created me to do. Never really understood that. Even the people I grew up with in church seemed like they were just so clean and good and non-sinners, because everybody was hiding everything back in the 80s. Nobody was talking about anything, you know. And I just never felt like I fit in, ever. And so that led me to like fringe people, and getting into drugs and alcohol, and working in hiding. Let's not say working, hiding in hospitality for a very long time. Thankfully got an incredible boss at the end of my hospitality career after I got clean and finished on a high note. But all that to say, you know, recovered, redeemed, recovered, remarried, and life is not easy, but life is great. It is an adventure. So overall, you know, I count my blessings that I have air in my lungs today, and that I get to have conversations like this. And, you know, if it gives one person some hope to, you know, believe that they were created for a purpose and they shouldn't miss it, then I will keep loving life every single day.
Yeah. Wow. I mean,
what rest and mold that into something.
Yeah. What a great way to really summarize everything, right? Because I know you and I talked much more, obviously, in depth about that journey. But yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And here's the thing, kind of bringing back, you know, some of the highlights of that. You talked about this skill set that you had acquired at a younger age, and something you were passionate about, right? You're ultra marathon swimmer. I remember you were a swimmer, and you had gone through many different challenges in life. I'm sure we'll maybe highlight and touch a couple of those things along the way. But how long was that gap, if you don't mind? So when we talk about what you're doing now and how that's been therapeutic, it's been part of your mission. It's been an outlet and being able to bring others through recovery as well. But from the time you were swimming, right, in school until, you know, in these last few years as an adult, was there a gap when you stopped swimming for a while?
Yeah, 26 years.
Wow.
26 years. And I'd even tried running at one point. I actually did relay run from like somewhere in Virginia to Asheville with like 8 other people. It was like this competition. I did a marathon with my mom, which was awful. I would never do a marathon ever again in my life. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, got swimming about 6, 7 years ago. Had a new manager with the company I was working for at the time, and he was a triathlete, and just kind of started talking to him about triathlons, and he found out I was a swimmer. He's like, "Hey, you should try an open water swim." And I had done, when I say I didn't swim, like I didn't do any training or anything, but up in Lake Michigan every now and again, in the summers I would go like swim a half mile or a mile just to play around. So when he said, "Do you want to enter a race?" I was like, "Sure." Well, I had the 1.2 mile or the 2.4, and I knew I was slow, but I knew I was mentally strong. So I was like, well, maybe I'll do okay if I did a 2.4 mile swim. So I trained for about 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks, and it was funny. I came out of that swim running up. Well, I was supposed to run up the ramp, but I'm cramping, like I'm just bulging out everywhere because I'm overweight. I mean, I just looked like you could have taken me to the hospital after this 2.4 mile swim. I was in agony, but I felt
2.4 miles on land, you know, has its challenges in itself, right? I mean, I'll do that on a treadmill or whatever, and you know, and sometimes once in a while I'll get involved in like a 3K, but when you're talking about water with resistance and everything else that goes into it, wow! I mean, 2 miles, over 2 miles is amazing. It's incredible.
And I ended up winning that in my age group, which I'm like, what? And I think I was like 11th overall or something like that. And I was like, gosh, I really enjoyed that. So I entered another one later on in the summer. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not racing people. I just want to see how far I could swim. And I was on a conversation the other night with one of the greatest open water swimmers in history, Sarah Thomas. She did a quadruple crossing of English Channel. So 4 ways: England to France, France to England, England to France, France. England. Nobody's done it before. Like, that's insane, right? Wow. So I was going through my history, and this is why this is fresh. I was going through my history of swimming over the last few years. And after that 2.4 mile race, I was like, I wonder if I can swim 5 miles by myself. So I swam 5 miles with no water, nothing to eat. Wonder if I could swim 12 miles by myself. And for the last 2 miles, my wife she brought a kayak coming the other way. So I was swimming this way down the coast. She came this way and met me for the last 2 miles. She gave me a pack of crackers and a bottle of water. But I swam 12 miles, no nutrition, no nothing. That was fun. Then I swam 18 miles, 22 miles, 28 miles. And I got to 28 miles and I was like, I wonder what the English Channel is. And I found out it was 20 miles. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting.
You're like, wait a minute, I can do this.
So this is how I stumbled and tried and failed and just really naively stumbled into the world of ultramarathon swimming, more for of a, can I push myself because I actually enjoy this. But when I really got into it, Robert, and I think this is the important thing, like everyone's like, swimming, big deal. You're right. Swimming isn't a big deal at all. And how I had to connect my why was, if I'm going to swim and swim channels or swim long distance events, whatever it is, I need to be helping somebody else in some way, shape, or form, fundraising. I cannot just be doing this just for myself. Let me mute that. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be more than swimming. Yeah. And I think once you anchor into your why, whatever you're doing in life, it's like you're not just a parent. You're trying to break cycles and have your children do better than you did, right?
Yeah.
You know, so you always have to have this why if you're going to do something, and that's really, the swimming just took off, and all of a sudden, I never saw it coming. You know, 2 years ago. Now I've got a book out. I've got a documentary because my good friend Herschel, who's an incredible videographer, and it's just crazy what kind of happens when you just look at the process, not the outcome. So
wow, that's amazing. Go ahead, Star.
You talked about that mental strength when you did that. I think it was 2.4 miles. You said, well, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough, but my mental strength is strong enough. How did you develop that? And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck on that on that place where it's like, okay, I can't do this, and they quit. But in your case, it's like, and I know it's not entrepreneurship, but I want to relate it back to that.
Yeah.
You knew mentally that you could do that.
Okay, so are you guys willing to get really real and transparent for a second?
That's what we are. We're uncensored, so Robert, you can put it out there.
Robert, we did this the other day, and so I
yes.
kind of know. I already know.
Yeah.
So Star, this is going to be uncomfortable. Okay. What's the hardest thing you've ever gone through in your personal life?
Death.
Death. Grieving.
Yes.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. But you're sitting here in front of me today.
Absolutely.
And you have a smile on your face.
Yes.
If you can get through grieving, you can get through whatever is going to arise in business. And that's the mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mentality. If I can go through, if I can beat addiction, by the grace of God, he took it from me, did not go through any programs or anything. If I can drop my kids off for a visitation, it still chokes me up, which is the hardest thing I've ever done, is not seeing my kids and growing up with them every single day, dropping them off for a visitation. If I can go through that, if my non-biological sister can pass of ALS, and then 7 weeks later, my dad passed, and yes, it shook me for 9 months. If I can get through that, then I can get through whatever business is going to hand me, whatever swim I'm going to do. I can remember that I'm here to serve other people. Wow. And that's, but we want to push the hardest thing away, and so we don't remember it. But that should be the fuel that actually,
oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
What do you think, Star? What do you think?
So many feelings came up. I was talking about it yesterday when I approached my clients, and I was like really holding back tears. And you're right. It's like anytime you're dealing with something that's very, like you said, the worst thing you've ever been through, you try not to think about it. I try not to talk about it so that I don't bring up those feelings. But you're right. I mean, if you can overcome these things, then you can overcome anything. And I think that's what we want to convey to our audience members. We see so many people that don't stick with it or give up. And it's like, no, this is like so small. You're right, compared to other things that we've faced in life.
Yeah, absolutely. As an entrepreneur, or, for each of us, but many people that actually listen to our show, we talk a lot about that statistic, the 97% that typically will leave their business, or they'll just quit their journey in the first 3 years. And many times it's those hurdles of not even, we think it's finance. Most people will first tell you that money is the biggest factor, when the reality is the reason why they may not have the funds or the ability to tap into that. Most of it is that mindset, right? It's the limiting beliefs that they encounter, and it's also imposter syndrome. We talk a lot about that. The fact that, they're looking at other people around them in their industry, or people that they want to emulate, and they go, why am I struggling? Why am I not, here in my business? And so they tend to take this like path of least resistance and tapping out. But I love what you said, Steve. I mean, that really, you said it to me the other day, and I heard it again, and it's the same thing that I even talk about. But to hear someone else say it, the struggles that we face in life, the hardest things that we've faced in life, are so much greater, and we've overcome those, and we continue to work through those things. They're so much greater than me not wanting to show up every day in business, or putting out that video, or putting out some more marketing or advertising. We tend to let those things hold us back, and yet they're so insignificant to the big things in life. And if we can use those big things, not bury them, as you stated, and use them as fuel, wow, so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Steve, I noticed you mentioned that once you went through this journey and you've documented all of this, you have so many opportunities. You're now a speaker, you're doing all these things. Were you an entrepreneur prior to that?
Yeah, I had a failed business. 2008, if we all remember 2008, was the year I opened a restaurant. Yay, me. And back then, I remember being so mad at Oprah for telling everybody to tighten their belts and not go out and eat. Wow, I'm like, lady, you sit in your ivory tower with your private chef and you just destroy the restaurant business, because I wasn't willing to take responsibility for, you know, what I was doing. And I was spiraling out of control because the money had gone. You know, if I didn't focus on the simple daily disciplines of personal development and business development. I was too busy playing victim. So that was really what led to my rock bottom. Closing that, I was spiritually bankrupt, physically bankrupt, relationally bankrupt, and financially bankrupt. I hit all 4 pillars all at once. You know, so you find yourself sitting in a rest area under a tree, and you're like, okay, God, I'm done running. I've messed everything up. Now, what do you want me to do? And he just whispered, trust me. And that's when I started the faith walk again and trusting him. And then it got into like, who am I as a husband and a father, even though I'd gone through a divorce? Who was I created to be as a husband and a father, a business person and a friend? You know, started, what does that look like? And then physically taking care of myself for the first time in a long time, like eating healthy, working out, and then really working on relationships. I still struggle with this one, but you know, 1 mouth, 2 ears.
Wow.
Listen more.
Yes.
Listen more. And yeah, so that started that journey, and then that started propel the financial journey, where I got out of the hospitality industry and went into staffing medical oncologists for a big company in temporary contracts. So I became an intrapreneur, an insidepreneur. And that started getting me into business coaching. And yeah, so here I am doing things I never imagined I would be doing, but really loving it. Yeah.
Wow. We've talked about it a couple times, Steve. We've talked about the fact that you're not just tapping into this entrepreneurial, you know, spirit and being able to use your past to fuel the present and the future. But the fact of the matter is there's a big why attached to it, right? There's this mission attached. And we're going to be talking about your mission in just a moment. I want to make sure that people really tap into that. But what I'm going to play really quick, I think this is a perfect little segue for those that are just kind of coming in. You know, we have Steve Moby Leitch, right, with us today, and it's beyondtheshoreline.org. You're going to find out a lot about some of the things that he's doing and his mission and things that are attached to that. And in our conversation, if you want at the end, we can expand on that too. You're doing a lot more, right? Even locally, and you're doing a lot of things for others. And I think that is huge, because as business owners, we don't always attach everything that we're doing to the community and to truly tapping into serving those around us, right? And that's so critical, I believe, to not just success of soul and anything that happens in the afterlife, but just, you know, in the present. I believe that when you're serving others, it really helps us with our own mindset. And as I always say, mindset, heart set, and soul set alignment, right? And so I'm going to play a little video. For those that are listening later on the podcast, you won't be able to capture, obviously, all the imagery, but I will make sure that the link is attached and everything going forward so that you can really check out some of these things. So give me just a moment here. Let's see if I can play this, because it's so powerful. And I think it will lead us right into this conversation about you and your mission that's attached. So here we go. This is from the beyondtheshoreline.org, the first documentary that you've been putting together, or you have out there.
I had been looking at these challenges 10 years ago. I would have been doing all these swims for me, for Steve, for the adoration, for the applause, for the crowd, for the, could I get famous off this?
There aren't that many people that have done this. Less than 100. 70% fail rate first time around. I mean, that's a pretty big task.
But that very quickly changed into I have to go swim to serve others. My why had to be bigger.
Steve has this thing where he just has to continually be trying to be more of himself so that he can help other people become more for themselves. It's a never-ending quest that he goes on every single day.
And now is who can I serve? Can I be the sweat equity for a mission to help underprivileged people? That's way more important.
So I just asked the Lord to bless Steve, the rest of the crew.
Sometimes it's even the people that you're closest to that will kind of push back. You're like, why would you do that? Why would you swim that far? Why would you work so hard towards something like this? Why not?
Whatever it takes. I mean, that's the answer for all of this. Whatever it takes. How'd you beat addiction? Whatever it takes. How'd you beat cancer? It's whatever it takes. How'd you get mental health counseling for children? It's whatever it takes. We need more of that in our society. Whatever it takes to help somebody else. The people that I'm going to swim for don't ask to be put in those positions. I'm asking to be put in this position to push my body to the limit. I need to finish this for them.
Powerful. So powerful.
Yeah, I haven't watched that in a while. I'm like, oh.
So powerful. Whatever it takes. I mean, really, we could have called this episode "Whatever It Takes" because I mean, but it's so true. It really just kind of echoes everything that you were just talking about. The fact that when you tap into something, mindset, you know, doing whatever it takes to get something accomplished. And wow, powerful. So. Tell us, first of all, Star, was that the first time you've had an opportunity to see that?
That was the first time I saw that.
Okay, that one.
Video.
Pretty wild, right? I mean, you know, it makes you want to go out there and, you know, let's have some. We'll do some house parties and rent that that documentary. So give a little bit back. But tell us about that in itself. It's a perfect way to talk about the mission. Many people mentioned in there that you're constantly giving back. And you talked about for those that are like the less fortunate, being able to help them out. So tell us a little bit about what you have currently going on in regards to that.
Yeah, so I came up with this saying back in the end of my hospitality when I was working with servers on the floor in front of the house managers. And I said, you know, when you're focused on serving others, you're not focused on yourself. And just, you know, I really kind of bought into this thing that the world is marketing. You need this to feel good about yourself. You need to buy this to complete you. You need this car, this trip, this line of makeup, this whatever it is. Like they're literally marketing these magic silver bullets everywhere. That you are not enough if you don't have this. And it's just really great marketing, right? Because we all fall for it. Here's the problem. It's backwards. When we are focused on serving others, and especially the ones that can never help us in any way, shape, or form, we will never get anything in return from them. The reward is so much greater because it's not a transaction.
Yeah.
There's no, I do this for you, you do this for me. No, it's literally like, you'll never feel more fulfilled when you do something for someone else with nothing in return. And if try it with your family.
That's so true.
So this started years ago when I was doing my personal development, faith walk, and it's morphed. And you know, so I got into real estate in the last year and a half, flipping some houses, buying some rentals, redoing the rentals, turning them into traveling nurses. And then we had one that wasn't really performing. And I was like, you know, I really want to mentor and help men who have been clean for a year and are in transitional housing with Miracle Home Ministries at their Overcomers program here in Greenville, and get 3 of them in a house and mentor them each week and help them rebuild their life. So we took that furnished house, I mean, fully furnished, everything, sheets, pillows, beds, pots, pans, washer, dryer, everything. And we moved 3 guys in January last year. And I was like, this is awesome. You know, I get the privilege of sitting with these guys each week. I'm going tonight and just having a conversation around faith, around our week, around what's working in our life, what's not working in our life. We get to pray together. And it's awesome, you know? And that's why we this summer decided we're going to start Rising Tide Ministry. And Rising Tide Ministry came when I was swimming from Ireland, Scotland. Didn't quite make it to Scotland. 53-degree water in just a swimsuit. But I kept watching the boat go up and down. And a rising tide brings up all boats, right? And I was like, let's start. I thought about it before, but really leaned into this. I want to start a nonprofit, a ministry that we can take men out of transitional housing. And it's a mentorship program. We're going to walk hand in hand with you and provide housing, furnished housing, but it's more a mentorship program from year 1 to year 3 or year 5, whatever you feel like you need, and then turn those men into mentors and house leaders for other housing, So we keep this thing as this basic discipleship model, right? And so that's what we're doing. And we just put the board together. It's really exciting. We're going to, we've got one house right now. We're obviously going to be doing more houses next year, more swims to raise money for houses. But I get such a kick out of doing stuff for other people and seeing them succeed in life.
Yeah.
And these limiting beliefs, I hear a lot of, I hear this, the buzzwords around the coaching, right?
Yeah.
Limiting beliefs. And I'm just like, okay. I think it's more that you don't understand the purpose that you were designed for. Because once you understand that you're a miracle, that you're designed for a purpose, and you know what that purpose is, you no longer have to watch your words or what you're saying. You can get on a call and a Scottish guy can ask you, what's the hardest thing you've gone through in your life? And you're able to answer it because you're aligned. You're in your purpose. I'm not trying to protect me anymore.
Yes. Wow. So true.
And when you stop protecting yourself and saying, you know what, I'm willing to go out and do this because I feel like this is what God's calling me to do. It's not about failure anymore. It's about process. So I kind of design it. Or you can even, bring out a documentary where you're half naked and you're really, you're so carved up, your body's like, boom, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Oh, yeah.
On the big screen, you're just like,
no one wants to see me in a Speedo, Steve, but but I will say I could see how that is entirely just transformational. I don't want to take away from what you just said, because that is so true. Tapping into your purpose, tapping in to, the gifts that you have and why you're here, like truly here on earth, to be able to serve, is wow, so powerful. When you talked a little bit in the beginning, and for those that are just kind of coming in, see people on a few other channels tapping in, definitely go back and listen to the beginning here. But when you started to come back in and you were using swimming as your mission, I did want to ask you this. What's the greatest distance you've gone?
Greatest distance today is 30 miles.
Incredible. And the reason why I wanted to kind of bring that back around just real quick was because when you talked about a little over 2.4 miles or whatever, and then you kept scaling it. And then when you finally realized, 18 miles plus, so 30 miles, that's incredible. And that's from country to country, shoreline to shoreline, or? So
it was like, it's a 28-mile swim, but the boat said I did 30. And that was going from Molokai to Oahu. That's what this trailer was for. And it was Easter Sunday, 2023. We start at 6:00 at night, which means it's dark by 7:30. And you swim through the middle of the Pacific in cap goggles and swimsuit in the pitch dark. And it was 4 to 8 foot swells. We had average 22 knot winds, some gusts up to 30, 35 knots. There's a lot of people being sick, including myself. I'm not going to give all the documentary away, but there's some very interesting stories and things you're going to laugh at, things you're going to be absolutely shocked at. The one thing I can tell you about in the middle of the swim, and we weren't able to capture this. Like, this happened so quickly. One of my kayakers was so violently sick, I actually had to get the boat to get him out to get the other kayaker to come back in. And this is 4 to 8 foot swells. We're going up and down like this.
Wow.
And as we're doing this, I look to my right and the boat's on my left. I look to my right. I'm like, huh, is that the Coast Guard? And it's like this pirate ship coming out of the pitch dark. And I see everybody on the boat just frantic. They've got their hand lamps turned from red to white. They're waving them, the CB's going. And I'm like, I don't think that's the Coast Guard. And it was literally a rogue fishing boat that turned 50 feet from me.
Yeah.
And almost hit me.
Oh my goodness. So, I mean, the reason why I wanted to kind of put that out there, that distance, is tapping into some things that you've already mentioned. When we talked about tapping into your purpose and being able to look at the hardest things that you've done in life and being able to really like bring that into focus to bring you out, through these things. In your specific, journey, it's not just the distance, it's everything else that happens along the way, right? It's the weather that you're encountering. It's the circumstances, your environment. And a lot of that relates to life and business. I mean, really, I can see how everything that you've done, it really is transparent with
weathering the storms in business.
yeah, like the weathering the storms and the things that are unplanned. And you just talked about this. I mean, we talk about a boat coming out of nowhere, and then let alone your crew, right? You're sitting here.
My wife. Watching my wife kick off the side of the boat.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Didn't even think about that. So like all these people that are on that you're dragging into
right.
journey with you, they're facing their own journey, right?
That's right. And, the thing is, and this is what I coach a lot of businessmen and businesswomen on. Like, you've got to physically take yourself to a hard place in life,
yes.
Whether it's running, hiking, swimming, triathlon, like I don't care, jiu-jitsu, I don't care what it is, but push yourself physically to a place where you want to quit and find out how strong you are.
Yeah.
And so every day work on something physical, getting a workout in, getting a sweat in. What are you eating? Controlling yourself. Work on controlling yourself, because you cannot control what's going to happen in business.
No,
you cannot. There's just too many unknown entities.
Yep. Isn't that true, Star? We talk all the time about the pivot, right? Like constantly with the environment, even right here with the way that we put content and we market ourselves online. I mean, we know that this changes daily. 1 minute we have a plan, the next minute other environments and outside forces
change that,
right? How many times have you had to do that in your business? A few times. So,
I mean, let's just look at the big one. I mean, let's look at COVID.
Yeah.
Change the landscape. But if you have your daily habits and daily disciplines, and it doesn't matter what everybody else does in the circus, I'm grounded. I'm grounded in my faith, my spiritual, my physical, relational. This stuff's all good. I'm going to keep working on this no matter if they shut down, whatever they're going to shut down. I can still go do all these things for my personal development. And now I am stronger and more resilient and ready to go handle what needs to be handled in business. But everybody's got it backwards, especially men. Men are the worst. Yeah. We are the worst. We're like business. And then you can become really successful in business in your 40s, 50s, like 30s, 40s, 50s. You're the ultimate success. But your wife doesn't talk to you. Your kids don't like you. Your stomach's hanging out over your belt. You've got heart issues. You haven't taken care of any of the other personal stuff. But yeah, your bank account's full.
At the expense of that. And that can be gone, as we've all just admitted, it can be gone tomorrow, right?
You get wrong like that.
That's the same for successful women as well, Steve. So
well, I will say women will they'll go into personal development. They'll realize working on themselves faster than men.
Yeah.
Especially coaching women, they'll dive into a process and be super transparent, and whereas men like to have the little shield up, a little bit more.
That's why that's why most of my clients are women. I mean, you just tapped into that. I think it's a 70-30, you know, ratio here, right? But you're absolutely right. I think also a lot of times pride and ego play just a major factor.
Well, and pride and ego just comes from protection.
Yeah,
I have to posture. I have to protect myself. I have to say the right thing. I can't be on camera. You know, we were laughing. My wife and I were laughing this morning because I was like, you know what? I was actually going to jump on this camera, just the cap and goggles on and no shirt. And but then I was like, well, no, we've got a film festival in a couple of weeks. I think I might do the red carpet in a swimsuit and a cap and goggles.
Yeah. Next time I'll have you on. That's all. I'll have you come on that.
I'm like, I know I will. You know, but that's the thing. When you stop caring about what other people think, but what God thinks about you, that's where you're going to get momentum.
Everything changes. A couple of things I just, again, because the time goes so quick, we could sit here and talk for 4 hours, right? So for those that are just kind of coming in as well, Against the Current is your book. And I love this, by the way. It's Against the Current. God created you for a purpose. Do not miss it. And I absolutely love that. So your book, people can find that through your websites, on social media, and then also, is it on Amazon as well?
Yeah, just go to Amazon, type in Steve Moby Leitch, it'll pop right up. Yeah.
So
that saying, my dad used to go around and just whoever was like, hey, God created for a purpose, don't miss it. And this was kind of a testament to him, you know. It's true. Like it wasn't a lie. It's like when we are dialed into that purpose and we really understand why God created us to be, you know, love him, love others, serve him, serve others, you know, and whatever that looks like, whether it's coaching, entrepreneurial, and being an employee and being a mom. That I don't use the word stay at home. Like, that's a hard job. You know, you've got a lot of work to do raising children, and you're not paying somebody else to do it, you know? So like, whatever it is, doing it to the best of your ability for the greater good of somebody else.
Oh, that's it. The greater good of somebody else. I by the way, I'm actually a little bit over halfway through your book. So I haven't finished it yet. But this one chapter, it's called Shame. Don't forget to forgive yourself. You want to just kind of scratch the surface a little bit on that, because it resonated with me. I know that I spend a great deal of time in my servitude to others, you know, praying over them, praying for, you know, whatever breakthrough they experience. And I do neglect self from time to time.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Even if you froze, you can just go ahead. Oh, you back with us?
Okay,
go ahead.
You're kind of breaking up. You're kind of breaking up a little bit, but I think we're good now. So forgiving yourself. Like, we go through these hard things. Okay, so 2010, I consider my rock bottom. Started rebuilding myself, and at first there was this performance, like, I got to show everybody how good I'm doing. It was really gross. And then I got to a coaching in 2018 and realized I was actually carrying a whole bunch of guilt and shame about my past, like a badge of honor. Instead of going, no, this is my past, I've learned from it. Now, how can I use it for other people? And because I had not forgiven myself for the things I'd done in my past. I hadn't forgiven myself for the divorce I called, the bankruptcy I called, not raising my children every single day. I had not forgiven myself. So I was walking around with this backpack and suitcases, an elephant of guilt on my shoulders that was affecting everything in every conversation I was having, even though I felt like I was okay. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's like, it's the same with grief, you know. It's the same kind of saying. When you're going through grief, you have to show your others a whole lot of grace. But you have to remember this, you have to show yourself a lot of grace, because you're hurting as well. And because you brought that up, I wanted to say that. Like, I didn't show myself a bunch of grace. I was struggling through grief. I mean,
I've been there. We've been there. Yeah.
And you say they fail to the level of your habits. I'm still getting up every day and doing what I'm supposed to do. But it's kind of, I was checking the boxes, and I just couldn't shake this cloud, and I felt empty inside and dark inside. And again, it was because I wasn't showing myself grace and just saying it's okay to be like this.
Yeah,
it's okay not to be okay.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true. I tell people a lot about my journey in 2020 with just a few things that happened, some trauma and loss and just life, and in my mind and heart, right? That disconnection between soul and self. And I felt like I wasn't worthy in my broken state to be able to serve and help others. And so I disappeared off the scene for a few months. You know, you shared a story similar to that, Steve. And I think, Star, you had some things in your life too, where it's like, you know, you kind of retreat back when really it's in that broken state. It's in that moment that you become even more equipped to serve others that are sitting in that same grieving state, right?
Yeah. And instead of retreating, if you actually lean into it, there's somebody who's gone through it, or there's somebody who's a little farther behind, and all of a sudden you find out you've got a lot more in common with people.
Wow.
Than you think you do.
So true.
But I mean, that's the other, you know, you're constantly trying to be separated and pulled apart and segregated and divided, and like this political party and this and that and that. No. Just share it all, bear it all. Stop trying to hide it. You've only got one life. You don't know how you're sharing your deepest pain that you're going through could actually save somebody's life.
Yeah. Love God, love one another. I mean, all of these other commandments hang on these two principles. And so, you know, we forget that so often, that we're, like you said, there's this huge divide in the world, but especially, you know, right now, currently in America, and all of these other things that we sit here and we debate about, when really at the end of the day, most of us, not all of us, but most of us have, you know, this common thread of being able to sharing and loving and impacting and making things better. And if we focused on that, regardless of what our preference is, right, the world would be so much better. So, wow.
Absolutely.
So I know we're coming to kind of a wrapping up and an end here. Star, do you have any last thoughts behind, you know, what we're discussing today, or just any questions for Steve in general?
Yeah, I just want to thank Steve for coming and sharing with us. And like Steve said, we're always going to be working on ourselves in one area of life or business. He mentioned, you know, that constant focus on nurturing relationships and listening. And for me, one of the focuses that I want to focus on is the health. So I love that he shared that. And it's like, if you can really commit to that endurance level in your health, then everything is possible. And there was a young lady on one of our coaching calls in a program that I'm in, and she asked the coach, you know, how are you so consistent? How do you do all these things? And he says, well, I work out every single day. And if I can do that, this is nothing.
Boy, isn't that true? And how often do I have good intentions about going to the gym and something else takes priority, right? So
those good intentions.
Yeah,
all those good intentions, right?
All those good intentions. That's why you got to contracts with yourself, and you've got to set your morning up for you.
Yeah.
And you know, if you got young kids, you're a young business owner or whatever, like the only time you can do it is between 4:30 and 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you got to get up.
Then you got to get up and do it. That's right. You know, that's so funny. Every time someone says to me, I don't have time, I'm like, what time do you get up in the morning? So yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's so hard to get it done at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You've overcome so much, and just to be able to give back to other men like you're doing now, and just to everyone. I mean, it's just incredible. So I love your journey. I love what you're doing right now. Thank you.
Wow, it's by the grace of God. I mean, he continues to fuel me and open up opportunities. So I'm so thankful.
it's our honor. Thank you so much for being here, being very humble too, and sharing, as you said, your purpose is tapped in truly to your soul work and your connection with God and the things that you're doing and serving others in such a big way, Steve. So we appreciate it. For those that want to connect with Steve, learn a little bit more about him, not only can you find it all, him all across social media, but beyondtheshoreline.org tells you a lot more about, some of his mission and ministry work and things that he's got going on. He has some new things going on as well. You can get his book, Against the Current. It's on Amazon. And like I said, I could have you on here for hours. Unfortunately, today's episode comes to an end, but we're going to have you on again. And thank you for making the time.
Yeah, thank you both. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is another episode of the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. We'll see you next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as usual. Continue to look out for Steve. We're going to have him involved in some things coming up, and we keep talking about this mastermind in the new year. I think that Steve would be definitely a great asset to be able to add into that community to really have people tap into this power of resilience, purpose, and vision. So thank you once again, Steve. We appreciate all things, and we will talk to you very soon. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.